Hello and welcome to another episode of Latitude. Afghanistan has now become Pakistan's biggest military commitment and engagement as Pakistan-sponsored Taliban does everything to topple the government in Kabul. At the same time, Afghanistan is also becoming an important geostrategic playground between those countries, including India, who are opposed to Pakistan's desire to militarily dominate this war-torn land. Most recently, New Delhi witnessed the visit of Afghanistan's CEO, Mr. Abdullah, who came to India not just to enhance bilateral economic and trade ties, but also to seek more military assistance from India.
There is a strategic partnership agreement between Afghanistan and India, and it covers all the areas of cooperation, including security and military. And we are thankful for the helicopters which have been provided to us.
Earlier this month, Afghanistan's CEO was on a 5-day visit to India. He met the Prime Minister and shared his experiences on counter-terrorism at an event organized by NSA Doval's Sons Foundation. The visit coming a month after PM went to Afghanistan, where he made it clear that India was in Afghanistan to contribute and not to compete, while making a veiled reference to Pakistan's reservations about Indian involvement in Afghanistan.
India is here to contribute, not to compete. To lay the foundations of future, not light the flame of conflict. To rebuild lives, not destroy a nation.
Prior to the Prime Minister's visit, India had delivered 3 Mi-25 attack helicopters to Afghanistan in what is seen as a shift in its strategy towards the strife-torn country. The fighting for the occupation of a major population centre, Kunduz, itself has claimed 848 lives. Many in Afghanistan point their fingers at Pakistan for the mess the country is still in. Recently, furious with peace overtures towards Pakistan by President Ghani, Afghanistan's highly regarded intelligence chief, Rahmatullah Nabil, resigned from his office, but not before posting an acid message on his Facebook page directed at President Ghani. When Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif once again stated that Afghanistan's enemy is Pakistan's enemy, Nabil wrote, "Our compatriots were being martyred and slaughtered." Furthermore, with the US intelligence agencies claiming that Afghanistan could again become the breeding ground for a new batch of Al-Qaeda recruits aided by the Taliban and other similar affiliates, peace in Afghanistan, despite the lofty claims of the recent Heart of Asia conference, is still a far cry, and the strategic challenges Afghanistan poses for the region are enormous.
Afghanistan remains a strategic dilemma for many countries, and to look at issues that are important for the future of Afghanistan, we have two hands-on experts on Afghanistan. Ambassador Jayant Prasad, who's been not only India's envoy in Kabul, but also a distinguished member of the Indian Foreign Service and currently the director of India's leading think tank on security issues, the IDSA. And we have General Ashok Mehta, a commentator and a columnist on national security and international issues, and currently the convener of the India-Afghan Policy Group. General Mehta, sir, my first question is to you. You obviously have a lot of optimism for Afghanistan and have been working on prospects for stability in Afghanistan for the last several years, as far as I know. Do you feel that Afghanistan has really moved up the graph, at least in the last 10 to 12 years, with enormous international attention on Afghanistan, or has Pakistan been spoiling the game all along?
Well, I think there are two parts to your question. The first part is on what kind of progress has Afghanistan made. And I would say here without hesitation that in the last 10 years or more, which is called the decade of transition from a war-ravaged country to from a war-ravaged economy, it's moved on considerably, and and because of these transitions, the three transitions being one about governance, the second being about security, and the third being about the economy. And so what you have is a great deal of progress in all three, except one has to add that the year 2015, the Afghans call it the year of setbacks. And it's a year of setbacks because on the security situation as well as on governance, because for the first time in Afghanistan, you've had a hybrid arrangement of a president and a chief executive officer. This arrangement is unconstitutional and has not been ratified, but it is unprecedented because it brings governments from the north and the south together. In other words, the Pashtuns and non-Pashtuns are part of this government, which is really the national unity government. 2015 has been a year of setbacks, and therefore there is a punctuation mark now on the transition and the transformation.
Right. Thank you, sir. Ambassador Jayant Prasad, you've served in Afghanistan. You're following it very closely. Obviously, you know people out there. You are aware. My question about Taliban. What are the prospects of reconciliation with Taliban? I mean, they are really the pain in the neck, if I was to put it, because every time things move forward, even during the Heart of Asia conference, you had a Taliban-led attack on Kandahar. I'm told 54 people died. Soon thereafter, there was an attack on the embassy compound, in the Spanish embassy. More people died, I think 8 or 9. So clearly, the Taliban and President Ghani has, earlier having spread out a hand of friendship to Pakistan, has now made it clear in his many statements that Pakistan's military not only controls the Taliban, it provides them encouragement and explosives and all kind of weapon systems. And clearly, this is Pakistan's proxy working overtime to take over Afghanistan. And before I come on to other things on Afghanistan, I'd like you to throw some light on this real problem area for Afghans and for the world.
Maroof, there is no insurgency or no terrorism situation anywhere in the world that has been settled successfully with support and sustenance being provided from the immediate contiguity.
Absolutely.
So the problem with Pakistan is not how much they can assist in getting the reconciliable Taliban to the table again. They did that once in early July, and you saw with what consequences. They did that ostensibly with the blessings of Mullah Muhammad Omar, who had been dead actually 27 months preceding that event. And so after an interregnum, because this was deeply disappointing for President Ashraf Ghani, he said there would be no further talks other than on Afghan soil. There would be no further talks with the presently constituted leadership of the Taliban. I see the prospects very dim indeed, Maroof, for the simple reason that look at the reconstituted Taliban leadership. Who are in command? The head of the Taliban has been a surrogate of the Pakistan army for a long time. The number 2 of the Taliban, effectively nominated in the Shura, is the scion of the Haqqani network, Siraj Haqqani, on whom there is a bounty in the United States of $5 million. And the number 3 in the Taliban is the religious preceptor of the Haqqani network. So I see no prospect of reconciliation with any group of people who have ideological and organizational links with Al-Qaeda and who are no different from what they used to be earlier. They have not repudiated those links. And we have some successful examples of reconciliation in our region. Look at the reconciliation that was carried out in, for example, Nepal. After 10 years of Maoist insurgency, India played a role in bringing together the democratic parties and the Maoist leadership. What was the prerequisite for it? That prerequisite does not apply in Afghanistan. The prerequisite for settling with the Maoists in Nepal was an a priori ab initio commitment by the insurgent groups that they would give up violence. The same thing happened in Tajikistan, just north of Afghanistan, when the Islamic Renaissance Party ended their insurgency. There again, there was a commitment from the insurgent group to give up weapons, surrender them, join the government, and then a number of senior positions were made available to them. They were accommodated. So I see no prospect of that happening at the present juncture, although they will go through the motion of talking. But there is something else which is possible, which is reconciling individual Taliban leaders who are breaking themselves away from this Taliban leadership. They can be co-opted into the system, and that's not reconciliation, that is reintegration.
General Sir, it is said that a secure and peaceful Afghanistan will be a source of strength for all of Asia, if not Asia, certainly Central Asia and South Asia. And a stable Afghanistan is important for the economic growth of the region. That's the general argument that's put across. Afghanistan's been unstable, at least in recent memory, for the last 45 years, since 1979 when the Soviets went in, and a number of things happened thereafter. India has continued to grow economically despite that. So how is it that the stability in Afghanistan is going to directly impact on the betterment of things in India or more economic growth in India? Vis-a-vis, stability in Afghanistan is certainly crucial for countries like Pakistan.
No, the first thing is that you have to have peace and no violence inside Afghanistan. Now, the prospect of that, as we've just heard, is very, very unlikely, because unlike in the case of Nepal, the example that was given, the Nepal army was far more capable of dealing with the Maoist threat, and it was only after the Maoists realized that they could not defeat the Nepal army militarily that they joined the peace process. The problem is in Afghanistan is that the Taliban, its military capacity is being augmented by Pakistan.
True.
And therefore, as long as Pakistan is not satisfied, Pakistan's strategic objectives are not met inside Afghanistan, which is its idea of strategic depth, its idea of a government which consists of the Taliban. In other words, they want that, and as far as the stability and security is concerned there, it all depends on Pakistan. Pakistan is the key player, and that is the reason, as long as, and India is of course concerned, because if there is no stability in Afghanistan, then who knows that once the Taliban find that they have taken the eastern part of Afghanistan in their charge, then the difficulty will be of how the IS, to deal with the IS also.
I'll come to that after a break. We are running out of time, but we'll be back after a break to look at more specific issues, particularly issues that concern India and India's role in Afghanistan. Welcome back. We still have our two distinguished guests with us. Ambassador Jayant Prasad, sir. India has been quite easily the biggest donor in Afghanistan outside the Western world. It has made very valuable and very tangible contributions to Afghanistan's well-being and to its democratic structure. What now for India, particularly with Pakistan drawing the red line that they feel very insecure and feel India has intentions of surrounding Pakistan from all sides? So Pakistan doesn't want India in, but India is still very much part of the Istanbul process and various initiatives. Where do you see it all going, sir?
Well, we have no disengagement policy with Afghanistan. We have to be in because it's a strategic necessity for India. But if you were to ask me, why is Afghanistan strategically so important to us? For a very simple reason. We want an Afghanistan that stands on its feet and takes its own decisions. We don't want anything more than that. And Pakistan needn't worry if they are pursuing the same objective. We have no problem or no quarrel with that. This is our short to medium term objective. Our long-term objective is completely in consonance with the Istanbul process, completely in consonance with what Ashraf Ghani says, that Afghanistan should be the roundabout of Asia. It should be the crossing point, the hub in the region for transportation, trade, minerals and energy. President Karzai before him used to call it the crossroads. We would like Afghanistan to play a role in connecting inner Asia, connecting Iran through Pakistan to India. Pakistan doesn't have that objective because Pakistan wants to see India permanently cut off strategically from those parts of Asia. So we are at loggerheads there, and you know, it is because out of a regard for Pakistani paranoia, which is kept up in Pakistan by the Pakistan military, that we had hesitated from supply of military hardware. But government has just decided to give 4 helicopters, attack helicopters to Afghanistan, the first of which has been delivered. And we have a program, an assistance program, which is a benign program, a partnership which is for the social and economic transformation of Afghanistan. The big things we have done is to provide Afghanistan an access to the Persian Gulf by connecting the Kandahar-Herat highway to Zaranj and then on to Chabahar. And now we are investing in Chabahar to develop the port facilities.
I've been told by very informed sources that one of the reasons why President Ghani ignored the advice of his predecessor, Hamid Karzai, and spread out an arm of friendship towards Pakistanis, only to be disappointed later, was because Karzai's last few years saw the Afghan government pleading with India for a lot of military assistance, which India, for a variety of reasons, was reluctant to give. And therefore, a disappointment led for them to turn towards Pakistan, which again disappointed them because of the double game they play. So where do you see now, as Ambassador Jayant Prasad has brought out, that Pakistan wants to play a bigger and bigger role, wants to keep India out of it? What is the mood within Afghanistan since you've just been there?
You know, there is a slight softening on the part of Pakistan. The fact that External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj was recently in Kabul for the Heart of Asia conference, and that we have resumed, or we will soon resume, our bilateral composite dialogue, and the fact that for the first time at the Heart of Asia conference, and for the first time, the government of India, that is the External Affairs Minister, announced publicly that India will strengthen Afghanistan's defense capabilities. So not only are we going to provide the helicopters that you've talked about, but we are going to enlarge this security program. Now, as far as your first question is concerned about the problem between Ashraf Ghani and Hamid Karzai, the president, the problem has been that Mr. Ashraf Ghani plays to the tune of the Americans. The Americans want to quit Afghanistan as soon as they can. Already they've had to delay their departure, their exit by 1 year because of the Kunduz operation. And the Americans believe, and so do the Chinese are the new kids on the block. The Chinese and the Americans are playing this game with the Pakistanis because they believe that the solution to security and stability in Afghanistan lies with Islamabad.
Clearly, lots of interesting points, but if I was to sum up, I'd say Afghanistan was moving steadily towards showing growth and progress, but 2015 has turned out to be perhaps one of its worst years in recent memory, with lots of terror attacks and lots of new forms of conflicts likely to emerge within the country. The other thing is the unlikelihood that peace can be achieved as long as the Taliban continues to be supported so openly by Pakistan without sanction from the international community, because America in particular and even China sees Pakistan as the lead player in Afghanistan and not countries like India, which have shown considerable good intent and actually back their deeds with back their sayings with deeds on the ground. But most importantly, Afghanistan quite clearly would be the next big strategic challenge, certainly for Asia and perhaps the rest of the world in the next decade. Thank you very much for being with us on this show, sir. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, goodbye.